Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everybody? This is here from the Standard 81 podcast, and I am back again with another video. But before we get started in this, let's go ahead and take that quick 30-second break so that we can get our minds right, and I'll be back here with you in 3, 2, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I want to thank you for rocking out with me. I appreciate you so much. For those of you just now coming in, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you don't dislike me or anything like that, just change it to a dislike. Either way, it's engagement. I don't care. And for those of you that really enjoy my content, go ahead and subscribe. I'd appreciate that so much. It helps the YouTube algorithm push my videos out to the people that want to hear it and want to know about my opinion, as well as leave a comment down below. Let me know let me hear your voice as opposed to mine all the time. And share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. So without any further ado, let's get this started. Things we need to think about. Okay, so when I was thinking about this topic, I am thinking more upon the political scale. Now, I don't usually touch politics, and I'm not going to really go into depth because I'm not one of those people that necessarily get into politics like that. But I do want to give some of my opinion on things that are happening and the way you should be judging things in this particular election. So here's a few things I think you need to look at. Number one, let's look at the policies of both individual candidates and see what they represent, right? And do they represent the type of lifestyle and the type of belief system that you yourself agree with, right? And look at it for the long haul, for at least the next 4 years. Because these are the things that you are going to have to live with until the next election. And also saying the foreseeable future, because in the 4 terms that a president is in, some things can be changed immediately, but some things can only be changed over time. So you got to think about that, in my opinion, from Jump Street. Next, the next thing I would say you need to look at is possibly who is supporting these people. Are these people that you agree with? Are these people that you would put your support behind 100%? And are these people that share your same views, morals, and values? Now, let me say this. I don't believe that either party, Democrat, Republican, conservative, or liberal, is 100% right or 100% wrong. There are things on both sides of the fence that a person can take from. But what you got to consider is the vast majority. What the parties are saying to you align with the vast majority of what you want your life to look like, and the life of your children and the life of your children's children to look like, right? Because that's ultimately what you're voting for. You're voting for a particular lifestyle, particular changes within the economy, within the country, within the nation as a whole to be delivered in such a way that it helps everybody, including yourself, right? And those who are going to grow up in the future of this nation. So that's what I would say, that those are some of the things that you need to think about. Now, some of the things that I would say that are less concerning would be race. Now, while it is a great thing to consider, because sometimes having a potential candidate that is of your same ethnicity can help them more align with the plight of what you are going through, and help them push things that can benefit your culture and your overall community. You can't just have that be the central thing. You can't just have that be the one thing that pushes you to vote for one person or the other. Because as we know, whether you are white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever the case may be, just sticking to your culture when it comes to political policies and stuff like that is not going to be nearly as effective as it is when you're talking about other things that can affect you, such as the state of the economy, such as foreign and domestic policies, things such as that nature, right? Things that can affect your standard of living and your morality and value system. Now, am I the type of person that would say certain cultures and certain ethnicities shouldn't want a milestone as far as having political power, or being able to make decisions for the community with in a higher state? No, I wouldn't say that at all. But you got to look at the candidate's position and see if it aligns with what you believe. Because putting a person into a position of power just because they look like you is almost the equivalent of saying, this, I'm gonna give this person the power to be student president because they're cool. This is not a high school dance. This is not the prom king or the prom queen. This is something that can affect your life for forever. So you can't just judge it on the merit of, this person looks like me, or this person is the closest to me as far as my culture goes. You got to look at everything that encompasses that person and what it is that they are trying to push. What is the agenda? Okay, let me say this. As a Christian, I know that both political parties and both sides of the aisle have an agenda. You have to recognize that. The Bible tells us to be as smart as a serpent, right? So a serpent knows the surroundings. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to go with this just because my mom and dad go with this, or I'm going to go with this because this is what my family does, or I'm going to go with this just because. Know it for yourself. Now, if the way you believe and the way that you're going to vote aligns with what your family and what your traditions align with, then cool. But remember, these things are going to affect you. These things are going to shape your future. They're going to shape your children's future. They're going to shape your children's children's future. And the last thing you want to do is think that you made a decision based upon your like or dislike for somebody, and not an egregious like or dislike, but just because I don't like them. They're not my cup of tea. Well, cool. Everybody is not going to be your cup of tea, but you need the decision you make long term shouldn't just be about that only. It should be you should be able to recognize what this person is truly going to bring to the table, for lack of better words. And if it's not something that you can align yourself with long term, then I would suggest you look at the other person's position. Once again, I'm not here to tell you who or who not to vote for. Um I'm just telling you what you should do. I'm just telling you what you should be looking out for. Um, Guys, hold on a second. I'm going to have a very special guest come in, and I'm going to take off my headphones. Uh, I am I am going to get this person a chair, and we're going to discuss this a little bit further. So give me 1 second, and I'll be right back. All right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'm going to bring in a very special guest. This guest is my mutual, my loving, my very own younger sister. Everybody give it up for Miss Chancia. All right, so we are here, and let me see if I can move that microphone this way. Okay, perfect. Um, so what we're talking about is things you should think about as far as uh political stuff. And what I've basically said so far is that when it comes to uh political things, you need to look at everything. You don't need to just look at the person. You need to look at everything. Don't just say they're black, so I'm gonna vote for them because they're black. You don't need to say, oh, they're Republican just because I'm gonna vote for them because they're Republican, or I'm a conservative or I'm a liberal. You got to look at everything and say to yourself, how is this going to affect my future? How is this going to affect my children's future? How is this going to affect everything around me? Because if you don't, at the bare minimum, you're going to be suffering with those policies and everything like that for 4 years, but possibly even longer, because a president's term of 4 years can change some things very quickly, but other things it's going to take some time to clean up. So, what is your thought on this all?
I agree. Um, you shouldn't necessarily just base off of party, because everybody who's in your party is Republican or Democrat, or they might not have the same values as you, and they might not have the same insight that you have for whatever you're how you feel and how you feel the country should be run. So don't just vote party, vote for people that align with you. I agree. Align with you. And if you're a Democrat and there's a person who's on the Republican side that um, aligns with your standards, your ways of thinking and stuff like that, okay, bubble in the Republican. And if same likewise, if you're a Republican and there's a Democrat that aligns with what you believe and how you feel and what you value, bubble that person in. If you're an independent party, let's not forget about independent people. You vote, not in necessarily in all the elections, but in the general election in November, vote how you vote. Vote what is best for, like you said, for you, your family, your friends, and stuff like that. Because every law that is put into action, there's an effect for every cause. There is an effect. Like there's no way around that.
Okay, so and I was about to go into another point is look at who each party is having support them.
Hmm.
In this case, I will point out Republicans versus Democrats, right? Because those are the two parties that are there. When I see a whole bunch of support from billionaires, millionaires, and celebrities and people that don't even relate to where I'm at, I'm going to be a little more cautious before I vote for somebody like that because I know not that they're bad people, but they don't relate to me. So no matter what happens in the country, as far as policy, they're going to be all right for the most part. They don't, it's not, the waters are not going to shake them one way or the other. But if I see another party that seems to have more commonplace people, more people that support them that are in the same position that I'm in, I'm going to be more likely to look at that versus the latter. While we as people love to see people of high influence and tell us, hey, I support this person, I support that person, that's great. And if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine by me. But as far as I'm concerned, and I'm just speaking for me, if I'm okay, let's put it this way. If I was a billionaire or a millionaire and I was in that tax bracket, then maybe I would be a little more liberal because hey, what's going to happen obviously is not going to affect me. So as far as the finances go, I'm not going to be as worried about the economic end of it. I might be worried about other things. So I'm just telling people look at who is supporting who and say, okay, does this person within these circles look like the place that I'm in currently and what I'm trying to get to or not? So what do you think about that? Do you think that's a good perspective to have?
Um, yes, and yes, to a sense. Like everybody that's like a millionaire, billionaire, or financially in a different tax bracket from us, they did come from where we were at some point in time. You did have some people that grew up with a silver spoon. Um, but yes, look at what candidate is supporting or being supported by who, um, because a lot of funding comes from organizations and stuff like that. And if there's an organization that you don't support and you don't know that that organization is supporting that candidate, but you stand outside and protest, and talk about you don't like, this organization or you don't like what they do, whether it's animal cruelty or it's, like sex trafficking, whatever, whether it's, you know, um, what do you call them, pedophile people that allow pedophiles to get jobs, whatever, or if it's the dairy industry, whatever. If you don't support those organizations on their own, but you don't know that they're supporting this candidate that you're looking at, it's really important to know who's supporting those candidates, where they're getting their funding from, because these organizations and people of influence giving them money with the expectation that there's going to be a benefit for them behind it, you know. So if they get elected or they get into seat or they get into an office, there's some expectations of, okay, what's the benefit for me behind it? It's not just, oh, I really like this person. There's always a benefit behind it. But yeah, voting for somebody who is going to try to help. And let's just put it out there, the working middle class is the people that suffer the most whenever we put somebody into leadership or a role of office that doesn't align with not even necessarily our views, but the benefit of the middle working class. Because without the middle working class, where would the world be? We would just have poor, or the US, we just have everybody poor, and those who are rich are rich. There would be the middle class are the people that keep this country running. Yes, the millionaires and the billionaires, but think about it. The middle class wasn't going to Starbucks and wasn't going to Walmart and wasn't going to 2J's and going to Seasons 52 and it wasn't shopping at Gap and Gucci and Prada and all these other places. If the working middle class were doing that, where would we be?
It would be a third world country. Let's just be real. Like if we go to a two class based system and middle class eventually drops off, um, which some people forecast that to happen, but I don't know. I ain't here to say yeah into that. I told you I'm not a political guy. Um, we be like every other third world country where a lot of biases are um, shown towards those who are rich, and then the poor just get left out. Um, while some policies in the Democratic Party sound great, ultimately it can lead us to a more rich and poor system. And while some policies in the Republican Party sound great, they can lead us to a more rich and poor system.
Yeah.
Because mind you, the rich and the poor ain't going nowhere. Those who are poor are for the foreseeable future going to be poor. And those who are rich are always going to find a way to make money, you know? So it's like she was saying, the people who are in the middle that is keeping everything afloat. Where the middle class is the consumer base. And where you have no middle class, you have chaos. This is why so many countries want to mimic the system that we have now so that they can have a middle class, a way to keep their economy going. And that's what we got to think about when we're out here electing officials. We can't just be like, oh, this person, cool. One or two things, um, but you can't let that be the overwhelming reason why you're voting for that one. Because if you let that one thing be the one reason why you're voting for somebody, ultimately it might wind up being the one thing that winds up killing off everything you're progressing for.
Can I throw a note out there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know a lot of people are excited. It's a presidential election. It's important. People who don't talk politics, don't care about politics, all of a sudden become very political and put in their 2 cents and their information. And I understand that the presidential election is very important. But not only is the presidential election important, but during these off years where you have your state representatives, your Congress people, your county people, your city people that are coming up for elections, your county officials, state officials, um, all these different other forms of government, they're just as important as the presidential. Because like you see here in the state of Florida, when COVID came through, the the US was supposed to be on lockdown. You're supposed to wear masks, the whole time and da da da. But the governor here was like, no, like we're not gonna be walking around with masks all the time. Like people need to get back to work. People need to, and those are the people that are important too, because they take your response. They see the employment levels, and they see the those of people that are on food stamps and WIC and stuff like that. They see the real inside of what's going on in your city, in your town, in your state, and they send that information up through legislation, through bills. They're the ones that, in my personal opinion, I think they're a lot more important than the president, because those are the people that are affecting the area where you live. The president, they deal with the bigger issues of things that are going on in the United States, like trying to help relieve gas prices exploding. But just like you see from state to state, I was in Texas a while ago. Um, the gas prices for gas in Texas were cheaper than here in Florida. So it's not only is it important to elect presidential and we all get excited and we want to vote for this person and that person, but remember to vote for your local and your state personnel, because they are the ones that affect change in your state where you live, and they're just as important. They can make or break things too. Like the way Florida is now, you put the wrong people into position, it might change, or you put the right people in position and it might change for your benefit. Those people are just as important. I just want to throw that out there, because everybody, every 4 years, they become very political, but during the rest of the year, when you're looking at your state commissioner, or people that are going to be seating and as Supreme Court judges, as they're starting to age out and new people are going to be taking in the seats, those are important roles that you need to vote on too. So don't just become political every 4 years. Make sure, if you don't understand it, get some information, but still vote. Like even something as simple as like your sheriff. Who's going to be your sheriff? Like we talk about police brutality and all that other stuff. Make sure you're putting the right people in these offices, because nothing's going to change if you keep just allowing that person to just keep sitting in that seat, or somebody who's got the same mindset as that person. Or say, for instance, your tax collector. Maybe your tax collector is sneaky and they're charging more for taxes, or keep raising the price of taxes. Your tax percent was maybe, let's say, 9% before, and now all of a sudden it's 15.
Yeah.
Those people are just as important to vote for as so if you're gonna act political and want to show face and I'm gonna vote for this person, vote for the right people down the line, like the domino effect. Every role plays a role.
True.
Every person plays a role.
True. You can take two extremes right now. You can take Florida versus Chicago. I mean, look at how Florida is run. You got so many people coming to Florida because Florida is run in such a way.
All over the place.
And then look at Chicago. Chicago is an absolute. Better yet, let's take two real opposing states: Florida and California. California is an absolute mess, and that has nothing to do with the president. Not overall. Not overall. It has everything to do with the mayors and everybody else that they elect, governors and all this. They're the ones that implement the policies. They're just following the due course of the overall headship. So you can make decisions to make your state or the place that you're staying a lot better if you know those things. And also know the amendments too. Know what you're voting for. Don't just skip those. Don't just vote for the people. Know the policies that are actually on the ballots, because if you vote in somebody but then you vote for a policy that goes against everything that person stands for, you're just telling that person that we really don't want you to be here. We just want you to implement what we say.
Right.
And then that basically takes away the power that they have to help do anything. You can't. And for those who are migrating to different states, fair warning: look at the way your state is before you left and vote in accordance. I'm not telling you who to vote for, how to vote, but if the state you ran from is a mess, Don't come to somebody else's state and vote for the same
Ah,
stuff.
yeah, don't bring your garbage to another state. Like,
But because if you like the way your state was being ran, my question is, why don't you stay there?
and help make the difference.
So don't bring the same mindset. I'm gonna say mindset to a country, to a state that is thriving. But let's move. My last few my last few points. Let's talk about how you should vote as a Christian, because Christians get very political around this time, and I want Christians to be very, 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 very careful. Please, let me say this: anything that goes before Christ is what you are. I'm going to say that one more time. Anything that's before Christ is what you are. So if you say, I'm a conservative Christian, no, you're just a conservative. If you're saying you're a liberal Christian, no, you're just a liberal. If you say, I'm a democratic Christian, you're just a Democrat. I'm a Republican Christian, you're just a Republican. Because without those particular things attached to you, the identity of Christ don't seem to matter. I'm going to say this, and then I'm gonna let her say. I'm gonna let my sister say whatever she's gonna say. Christ is first. He is number one. My sister said this yesterday, and I want to say this. I'm steal your thunder here for a little bit. She said no matter who gets in office, Christ is still on the throne. Christ is still on the throne. He don't care if Billy Bob Joe gets in office and begins to destroy your whole state and it begins to destroy the state of the world. I'm here to tell you, the world is going to die off anyway. The only reason we want things to be better is so that we can have a comfortable life, and so that the children we reproduce have a comfortable life, and the children that they reproduce have a comfortable life. But I'm here to tell you, the Bible then already told us everything is going to be destroyed at some point. So let's just get that out of the way. At some point, everything is going to go to pot. It's not going to be this way for forever. Read your scriptures and know that at some point, I don't care who you vote for, everything is going to go wrong. And that's when you got to decide. But now is the time to decide. Am I here for Christ, or am I here for my party? So be very, very careful when you're voting. Let what you're voting for align with the beliefs of Christianity, not the beliefs of the party, not the beliefs of an ideology. If it aligns with Christ, cool. And I'm talking about on either side of the fence. If you think that the Democratic Party is the side to vote for, go back to your scriptures, see what it says, and then make your vote. If you believe the Republican side is the side to vote for, go back to your scripture, read what they say, and then make your vote. So, what do you have to say?
I agree with that because the Bible says that when a wicked person is in power, the people are basically like sad. When a righteous person is in power, then people rejoice. And until Jesus comes back, we want to have righteous people in there. And don't get me wrong, every person, every president, every single president from the beginning of time that presidents became in power in the United States, every single one of them have done wrong things, and every single one of them have done good things, no matter what party line. There's things that you're going to like about one person, no matter if they're your party or not your party, and the same thing if they, on the other side. So there's no perfect president. There's no perfect person in general. But you do want to have somebody who, I'm gonna kind of say something kind of contrary that some of y'all might not like, but don't look for the Christian person, because Christianity has been stained so badly.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look for a person who's striving for righteousness, for holiness, for
Mm-hmm.
purity, and that follow the Ten Commandments. I mean, we don't even have the Ten Commandments in our courthouses anymore. But, if you have the Ten Commandments in your heart, then, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not, adultery, and all the Ten Commandments, thou shalt have no other God before you, which means who you elect into office. If you're so rah, rah, rah about the person that you're electing and God is not first anymore, there's a problem. But like some person, male or female, would I like to see eventually sometime in my life a female president, a Hispanic president, an Asian president, a Native American president? Yeah, I think that would be awesome to show the diversity that we have in our world, in our country. But if that female, male, Latino, Asian, Indian, African, like African, that's an American. Um, if that person isn't aligning to what the Word of God says and wanting to do what God is saying and steer us in a way that really says one nation under God, not under gods, but under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, and truly having justice for all Americans, all people, then cool. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Let me say this, and I'm gonna just say this about both specific candidates. Trump is not Jesus.
Amen.
And Kamala Harris is not the devil.
Amen.
And vice versa. For those who would be like, "Oh, you're a Trumper," or neither one of them is perfect.
So just say it the opposite way, so
And Kamala Harris is not Jesus,
mm-hmm.
and Trump is not the devil. All right.
Amen.
So let's just get that out of the way. Neither one is going to, as a Christian, neither one of them is going to send you to heaven nor hell. They don't have that to send you to. All they can do is use the power that we as people give them in order to run the country. And then once again, it that even has its frames because of, like my sister said, that comes down to state. Policies and policy, policies and policy. The whole idea of the presidency is for the vast majority of all countries, of all the states within this country.
Because the presidents deal with other countries.
So it encompasses everything. That's what the president deals with. The president ain't just gonna come to your particular state and be like, yeah, I just need to make a policy for this particular state. And nor is he gonna be like, I need to make up a policy for just this group of people. If they do, they cause chaos. And we already seen some of that happening with the current administration. They see that on both sides of the house. So I'm not saying nothing controversial. CNN is talking about it as well as Fox News, So not saying nothing that's crazy. Both people are talking about it in one way or the other. So when you're out there making your votes and you're out there saying, oh, this and this is that, and ooh, and all, think about the things that you're talking about, especially as Christians, and know what God stands for versus what people are standing for. And don't be afraid to be shunned, ridiculed, laughed at, be called names, because the Bible tells us that it's going to happen. It's inevitable. The world is going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you, it's going to burn up in flames before it gets better.
But that doesn't mean walk around in fear or anything like that. Have your faith in in the Lord, because sometimes people hear that and they're like doom and gloom. Oh,
why should I even vote?
No,
I don't care.
Like,
It's gonna burn anyway.
God is extending His grace because He's giving us an opportunity to show Him that we can do right, that we can put righteous people into office. So don't think like tomorrow night, like fire and brimstone is gonna.
I'm not gonna vote because you just said everything was going to go to hell. So I'm not gonna vote. I don't care what happens. Yeah, well, if we happen to survive and live.
Yeah. And you never know, like those policies and things that happen could set us up for not as bad times, or maybe make it, because like a lot of times I guess people have the idea of Left Behind, like
those old Left Behind movies.
Yeah, and they have their own validation to it.
Yeah.
But is it going to be to that extreme? Maybe. Is it not? I think when it comes to that, and that's a whole different subject that you can go into later, but I think it will be the little subtle things. It's not going to be like, we're taking your house from you right now. It will be the little subtle things that happen. And it's subtle things, because when something big happens, people notice it and they react and, all that kind of stuff. But it will be little subtle things.
By the time something big like that happens, where it's like this big boom and people are coming in to take you out of your house, and
hopefully I'm gone by then.
Yeah,
in the sky.
I want to be gone too. But by the time they get ready to do that, it will have been all these little things that we say, oh, it ain't that big of a deal.
Right.
It ain't that big of a deal. I don't need to really look at that. Or, this is okay. This is okay. This is all right. Just as long as we got this. Compromise is still compromise.
Yeah, that's why I'm supporting the vote.
If there was anything I had to say, to cap all this off, that's why it's live. We don't edit. We just go. If I had anything to say to cap this all off, it would be, think. The Bible says, be as wise as a serpent. Serpents have plans. They think about what they're going to do before they attack, even though most people think they just attack. No, they're sitting there looking at you. That's why they sit there so long. And then it's like, boom. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm about to pounce on you. So don't just react. Don't just react. I'm not saying that you don't have a right to be angry. I'm not saying you don't have a right to be mad. I'm not even telling you don't have a right to have a voice or an opinion. But just make sure, and I'm gonna keep this neutral, balance for those who are not Christian. Just make sure that in whatever you do, you sit there and think. Don't just feel. Don't just react. Think about it, because everything that's going to be done is going to affect you in some way, somehow. And if you don't like what's happening now, change it by changing your way of thinking and then casting your vote. Okay, so what do you want to say in conclusion?
Just agreeing with what he said, all I'm going to say is just be an educated voter. Don't let people educate you on their opinions. Be an educated voter. Vote all the time. Godly. Stay squeaky.
All right. So, everybody, that's it. Thank you to my wonderful sister for joining me. I need an effects machine. And that's it. Anyways, check out the Standard 81 podcast over there on TikTok, as well as the Instagram. Like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
Stay squeaky.
Peace.